All right, here we go. Right deuce, dog, 90 smoke on 3. Jimmy, you're 1. Ice, you're 2. Champagne, you can clear out. Right. J-Man, check the flat. Yeah, on 3. Yo, Willie, don't force it in there if you don't got it, baby.
Oh, yeah, baby. Time for the National Football League and only the National Football League for 1 hour. Sunday mornings, 9 o'clock Eastern. Our 10th NFL season here with GameFaceRadio. Locally on 940 WINE and all across the globe on 940sportsradio.com. This is a 4-hour NFL radio show that Jerry Foley from the Giant Insider and I cram into 1 hour. Don't know how we do it. I still don't know after 10 years, but we do it. And on the phone with us, Jerry Foley. Good morning, week number 9, Jerry Foley of the NFL season.
It is a good morning, buddy. Our Giants can't let us down this weekend. Not at all. Not today, not tomorrow, never.
There's no letdown from this team at all in the foreseeable future.
No, there's not. It's the perfect weekend if you're a Giants fan, unfortunately.
I mean, you got to laugh because here they sit at 1-7 at the halfway point, the exact same record they had with Big Ben last year at the helm.
Yeah, and somehow the outlook looks even bleaker or more bleak. I don't know. But it looks worse, the outlook. I think this is a better team as far as staying competitive in the games, other than the Eagle game. Every game's been competitive, but I don't see 3 wins this year. No,
I don't. In fact, I'm wondering if they even win another game. I think you're looking at 1-15 here.
I think the over-under would be 2-14.
Yeah. Okay, well then who is that second win coming against? Because I'll tell you right now, and you and I'm going to analyze this deep with you in the third segment. They are not beating the 49ers next Monday night. That's not happening.
Yeah, I agree, bud. I think if they win one, it will be Tampa or Indy, but neither of those is a gimme. I mean, if they're going to win one, they'll squeak it out just because the defenses aren't that great for either team, especially Tampa, but their offense is good, so I don't know, man. Again, it might be one of those two, but I could see them going 1-15.
Yeah, that's my prediction at this point. As the Giants sit at 1-7 through the halfway point, they have a bye this weekend, thankfully, and you know they kind of had a little bit of a bye before their game against the Falcons, and we saw how that helped them, right? So it's a big mess. It's the Stone song from the Some Girls album of 1978, Shattered. My brain's been splattered all over Manhattan.
I love that song.
Yeah, that's where we're at here with the G-Men at 1-7. Oh, boy.
Yeah. I mean, it's worse than any of us could have imagined. I thought they'd be better based on just the fact that they couldn't be any worse. But, yeah, lo and behold, we are worse. We are a worse team than last year.
So I know you are a big music fan.
Yes.
Like I am, Jerry. Mm-hmm. I was a huge Queen fan.
Yeah.
Growing up. Day at the races, night at the opera. I went and saw the new Queen Freddie Mercury movie last night, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, how was it?
It was fantastic.
Was it?
Yeah. Anybody who's a Queen fan, I recommend going and seeing this movie.
Yeah, I was born in 74, so Queen was around, but I'm more the greatest hits type of a fan of Queen. Like, I remember We Will Rock You was like big with the NBA in the 80s.
Well, you know what? I went with a friend of mine. We're both the same age, and he was insisting that there wasn't going to be that many people in the movie theater.
Yeah.
And I told him, you're wrong, buddy. Just because Queen hasn't really been around and Freddie Mercury unfortunately passed away back in 1991, I'm telling you, they have a huge legion of new fans, and the reason for it I believe, is because of We Will Rock You, We Are the Champions.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And Bohemian Rhapsody, too, from Wayne's World.
No doubt.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So we went to the theater last night. We got there 5 minutes before the movie started.
Yeah.
Couldn't find a seat.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yep.
I mean, think about it. Like, did Neil Diamond think that Sweet Caroline, when he recorded that, would be such a big song, 30, 40 years later? No. So you never know what's going to take hold and kind of create a life of its own.
Great point. Speaking of a life of its own, I got to tell you how flabbergasted I am. The trade deadline, of course, came and went on Tuesday, Jerry. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about the Giants and how inactive they were.
Yeah, stunning.
It is stunning. I want to get your answers to some questions regarding that. But here's what blows me away. Mm-hmm. If you're the Kansas City Chiefs and you were snooping around, which they were snooping around. They need a safety. They need some defensive back help. Yeah. They're thinking they're going on a run this year. Mm-hmm. They certainly have the right to be thinking that.
Yeah.
They're 7-1, I think.
Yep.
And they were snooping around the Giants' facilities, and more specifically, snooping around Landon Collins. The Giants supposedly were listening to everybody, but their explanation was, we weren't looking to trade anyone, but we're always keeping our ears open for any decent or really good offers that come along for any of our players.
Yeah.
And so they knew that the Chiefs and some other teams were perhaps interested in Landon Collins. Mm-hmm. Nobody ended up making an offer. Or perhaps they did.
The right offer,
the right offer, correct. My understanding is that nobody was willing to give up a second-round pick for Landon Collins. And the Chiefs' attitude supposedly was, nope, we're holding firm at 3.
Yeah.
So wait a second. See, this is what I don't understand about NFL general managers. Mm-hmm. Because most of them, pretty much like radio people, they follow each other and they behave the same way, actually like the media to a large extent. If you're thinking you're going on a Super Bowl run and you need safety help bad, you're not willing to give up a second rounder instead of a third for a guy like Landon Collins. What am I missing here?
Nothing. It was I don't blame the Giants for not trading him. I don't know why the Chiefs wouldn't give up a second. He's one of the better strong safeties in the league.
It's unbelievable.
Actually having a good year. Yeah, it's stubbornness. It makes no sense. And I know draft picks are a premium, but it's not a first rounder. It's a second rounder. And you'd be getting a 24-year-old, 25-year-old safety who could still be getting better as time goes on. So it didn't make any sense to me either.
I'm blown away by that.
Yeah, I mean, I understand if the Giants didn't want to give up didn't want to give him up for less than a second. I completely agree with that. I think Collins is at least worth a second, even if you just franchise him this year and then figure out what you're going to do with him. We can get into it later, but there were other moves they didn't make that I didn't understand.
Yeah, and we will get into all those, of course, in our third segment as we cover the New York Giants in detail. You'll hear New York Giants discussion on this show that you will not hear on any other radio station. Period, end of story. And we'll give you examples of that coming up in the third segment. But here's another one right here, this discussion. I am blown away that I don't hear anybody talking about this kind of thing on sports radio. There are so many incongruencies that I see with general managers and NFL clubs when it comes to stuff like this. I mean, I could give you example after example, but the other one that comes to my head right off the top here is the draft a couple of years ago. Lyle Collins, the offensive lineman for the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
Great prospect, but something happened before the draft. I can't remember what it was now.
His ex-girlfriend was found dead, I believe.
Okay, yeah, something like that, but he wasn't implicated. There was no proof. He wasn't arrested or anything. Meanwhile, every single club passed on the guy through every round, and I'm sitting there saying to myself and others, the Giants really need offensive line help. Why would Reese not just take a gamble on the guy in the seventh round?
I said the same thing.
Take him in the seventh round. You got nothing to lose.
I said the exact same thing. I wrote the exact same thing, Steve. I was in the press room.
Yeah.
When it came out, they weren't sure what the details were around her death. And I said, look, even if he's guilty, it's a seventh-round pick.
Right.
You know who they chose in the seventh round instead?
Somebody that's not there now?
Bobby Hart.
Bobby Hart.
Right. So yeah, you're 100% right. And he was such a good prospect. He was supposed to be a first or second round pick that year. I mocked him in the second round to the Giants that year in the Giant Insider.
He was that good, that good of a prospect.
From LSU.
Yeah.
And when he started to drop, I thought, even if he's guilty, it's horrible, but at least you could say, look, we don't know the situation around him. We're going to take him in the 7th round, because if he's not guilty, this makes complete sense for us. If he is, it's another 7th round pick that didn't make it for us. I mean, Reese don't get 3rd round picks. I mean, what the hell difference did it make if the 7th round pick didn't make the team?
And it's not just Jerry Reese, by the way. Every single club passed up on the guy.
Yeah, I didn't get it when it cost you almost nothing to get him. And then he ended up being a free agent, and he signed with Dallas.
There you go. And he's playing very good football, isn't he?
He's a good player. Yeah. It made total sense to take him that late.
It really did for every team, but every team passed on him, Jerry.
I would have taken a flyer, too, man. I said it and wrote it.
Yep. Unreal.
Yeah.
Unreal.
Great minds.
All right, coming up in our following segment here in just a few minutes, we're going to talk about the boneheads in the NFL media. And there are a bevy of them. We're also going to get deep with the New York Giants, such as they are, in segment number 3. We have in-your-face matchups coming up at the end of the show here at the top of the hour. And, of course, our second edition of the Fennelly Fracas. We're looking forward to that coming up here on GameFaceRadio. Oh, man, when was the last time you heard this music, Jerry Foley?
It's been a long time.
Compliments of NFL Films here on GameFaceRadio. Time for NFL Haps. Fantasy football owners and operators, I'm assuming you've already picked up 49ers quarterback Nick Mullins, the new flavor of the month quarterback. And the Giants will be facing him a week from tomorrow night. This guy looks pretty good.
Oh, yeah, looks real good. Another young quarterback that looks pretty good. Yep, he was on. His reaction to winning was awesome. Basically got pretty emotional, and his post-game locker room speech, I don't know if you saw it, was incredible.
No, I didn't see it.
That was great. He said, in preseason, when we beat Dallas, I said, it's only preseason, but this is why we play the game. And then he goes, but now it's the regular season, and this is why we play the game. And everybody jumped on him and went nuts. It was really good.
Cool. Speaking of quarterbacks, the Cardinals have released Sam Bradford. I think that guy's going to have a tough time finding another home.
And already the idiots started saying, hey, he could match for the Giants. And I just kept tweeting, no.
Every time somebody gets released, can we bring him to New York?
Yeah, because he played for Shermer in Minnesota, and that was such a great era.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah. Speaking of great eras, this guy may be finished as well. The Raiders have released defensive lineman Bruce Irvin. Gone.
Yeah, I think he's like 30, 31, and again, would the Giants pick him up? I think the Giants are going young, everybody. I don't think they want to pick up any veterans at this point.
Agreed. Fantasy football owners and operators. You might want to scratch wide receiver Stephon Diggs of the Vikings off your list today. Looks like he will not be playing. He has some type of a quad injury, I think it is. So, all right, there you go. NFL Haps, compliments of our friends at Green Bubbles Car Spa. They are located at Four Corners in Brookfield, right behind the mobile gas station. We played these guys a few weeks back because they were featured on halftime of Monday Night Football. One of our favorite bands from the 90s. It's Garbage. Foley and the Frattman. GameFaceRadio, CBS Sports Radio, 940 WINE, and 940sportsradio.com. Back in mere moments.
Pretend you're high. Pretend you're bored. Pretend you're anything. Just to be adored and what you need.
Foley and the Frattman? That name sounds like some TV show from the 60s that bombed. Is that what we're listening to? I thought this was an NFL radio show. 940 WINE, a CBS Sports Radio affiliate.
You are a meathead, dead from the neck up.
GameFaceRadio, baby. Hit it. CBS Sports Radio, 940 WINE. Jerry Foley from the Giant Insider is our co-host. I am the Frattman, and a big-time thanks to those of you who are with us every Sunday morning for 1 hour. It is the only straight-shoot NFL radio show regularly scheduled in these parts right here. Sunday mornings, 9 o'clock, and it is time for Bonehead Football Media Matters. We do have the New York Giants in detail coming up on the show in the following segment. Jerry Foley, let's talk New York sports radio here for a few moments, shall we?
Oh, they still talk about New York teams? I didn't know that. Okay.
And by the way, this is the shortest amount of material I have for Bonehead Football Media Matters, I think, ever. So I'm wondering.
I have a couple good ones to bring up.
Oh, good. Good. So that'll fill in some of the gaps here. I'm just wondering if a lot of the media were on vacation this past week, because normally I have too much material to fit into this segment, and now it's kind of bare. The cupboard is bare. Yeah. Can you imagine? The sports media took a week off, evidently, from dumbness.
Well, they're also they talk baseball a lot, and they're also in a state of depression since the Red Sox won the World Series.
Oh, so yeah, good point.
They can't talk Yankees and Mets, and then the Giants and Jets are terrible, so I don't know what they're talking about, probably just personal stuff.
Well, yeah, a lot of personal stuff, which you hear on ESPN radio a lot, which bores the hell out of most of us. I don't care about your dog. I don't care how many times a week you have to take the garbage out. I don't care how many scars you have. Yeah. Wasting valuable airtime for stuff like that. But WFAN, to your point a moment ago, first of all, they got some new guy. I heard some new guy on the air after Steve Summers. If they don't have a sports show, a game of some type, basketball or whatever, airing. They've got this new guy on at 10 o'clock. I don't even remember his name. Have you heard him?
Not this week, no. It may be one of the contest winners from a few years ago.
Jerry, he sounds exactly like a stripper club DJ.
Wow.
Exactly.
Quite an indictment.
All right, everybody. Hey, how you doing? It's time for some sports here, and we have Desiree coming out on the main stage. Oh, my God. Where does New York find these bird brains, man? It is astonishing.
They had a contest for a while where they had basically like open mic night at different locations.
I didn't even hear about that.
Yeah, it was, and then people gave it a shot, and then the winner would go to perform at the Jersey Shore in front of Francesa, and then they would choose. So, for like 3 or 4 years in a row, they did it. So he might be one of those winners.
It is really amazing, I'll tell you. I heard this guy opening up that shot. You know what we used to call that in the radio business?
What's that?
Puking on air.
And staying on FAN, if you don't mind. Let me
No, in fact, I had some more stuff I was going to bring up about them, but you go.
A couple nights ago, a caller, someone called in the Francesa show. It was around 6 o'clock, 6:05, 6:10, and said, oh, yeah, I wanted to talk about Paul Zimmerman, Dr. Z, who I'm sure everyone knows, wrote for Sports Illustrated, passed away this week.
Yeah.
When he passed away the day before, the caller called in. And he says, I want to talk about Paul Zimmerman and his passing, and Francesa goes, oh, I didn't know he passed away. And then he proceeded to tell everyone how close he was with Paul Zimmerman, how he knew him very well. And I thought, he died 24 hours earlier. Like, how close were you? I mean, I was like, how do you say that? How could you say how close you were to someone when the guy passed away? Then you say, oh, yeah, I didn't even know. I just thought it was typical, Francesa. He knows everybody, knows everyone. And
that's right.
That's embarrassing.
And that is typical.
Yeah, it's just, come on.
Fits right in with him, yeah. I read that kind of stuff from Phil Mushnick about Francesa regularly.
Oh, he buries him, and he does a great job with him. And his picks are always wrong, and then people call in and talk about the picks, and he's like, I never said that. And
Right. Right.
Now there's a Twitter account devoted solely to basically finding things that he says and reposting it all the time, which is hilarious.
Classic.
I mean, kudos to them.
Now, how about, I listened to him a couple of times this week, and I'm thinking again to myself, I would never hire a guy that sounded like this, but Beningo over there, right over there, over there.
And he's another one. He used to call in as Joe from Saddle River, and then they hired him.
Over there.
Yeah, that's a tough show to listen to.
I do not like listening to radio, sports or otherwise, and I can tell where the dude's from. I just don't like it, man. I hate strong New York dialects on the radio. Just hate it. So, programming-wise, WFAN is all screwed up as well. So, let's see here. 14 times this past week when I tuned in, I heard commercials, of course. You're always going to hear more commercials than content on that radio station. So 14 times I tuned in, I heard commercials. 9 times, even though baseball's over with, 9 times I heard baseball. You will still, even now that baseball season is over, you will still get way more baseball discussion on that radio station than any other sport, my friend.
By a mile. They'll talk about free agency, pitchers and catchers reporting, all that stuff.
Everything.
Yeah, and even if the Jets or Giants were relevant, which they aren't now,
right,
you'd still get more baseball.
No doubt about it, and it's been that way for years.
And Knicks.
I remember calling in I wasn't living in New York at the time, but I was here visiting, and the Giants and the Jets were both in the playoffs. It was the week before their first playoff games. This was back in like 2003, I think it was. And I called into ESPN radio because I wanted to talk Giants, baby. You know, that time of the year, man, January. And No, the screener told me, sorry, we're only talking baseball. Even though baseball was over. You believe this stuff? That's so indicative years later of how these two radio stations think. So 14 times I hear commercials, 9 times I hear baseball, 6 times I hear Jets, 2 times I hear Giants, once I hear basketball. That's their programming over the last week.
Yeah, and it's like that all the time. It's last week, it could be 2 years ago, 4 years from now, it doesn't matter. That's typically how it goes with that station. New
York Giants radio next here on GameFaceRadio in our third segment. This is CBS Sports Radio 940 WINE. We are on Classic AM in New York and Connecticut, all over the globe on 940sportsradio.com. Got a Facebook page, too. If you'd like us, that would be really cool. Facebook.com/GameFaceRadio. ESPN Radio, Anita Marks, I try to listen to her because she talks football most of the time she's on the air over there. I just can't do it, man. I have to end up turning it off, switching the station after like 45 seconds. Her voice stinks, but it's the that's what she does. Yeah, she starts every sentence off repeating herself 4 or 5 freaking times.
Yeah, I don't know what team she's a fan of, but she worked for years for the Giants. But even when the Giants were relevant, she wouldn't give credit where credit was due. And I don't know if she's a Dallas fan or a Miami Dolphins fan. I don't know. But she's definitely biased against the Giants on ESPN.
Yeah, I've heard plenty of examples of that. But just being able to get through hearing the stuttering and this woman do you think that do you think that all right, do you think that really? And you have this woman on the air? Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, wow. New York City is the land of lost misfits when it comes to journalists and sports radio. That's what it is. And I hear a lot of these people in the New York sports media, they still don't understand. This week they were talking about the Jets should be able to go down to Miami this weekend and win that game. Meanwhile, every time the Jets go down to Miami, they lose. But they should be able to go down there and get a win.
Exactly. I don't know. It's almost like they ignore any history, ignore any recent history, and just kind of make up their own narratives.
You know what I'm tired of, Jerry Foley?
What's that?
Really, really tired of right now?
What's that?
I am tired of seeing headlines of other former players and the media, and of course the media spotlighting the former players, making commentary about Eli Manning and what he should do now and what the Giants should do. And I mean, every time you turn around, man, there's a former player talking to the NFL media, bashing Eli Manning. And I think it's just way over the top. I will remind everybody that, just as an example, before Tony Romo had to stop playing after never winning anything and not being able to finish a season 5 years in a row because he was getting hurt, that Iron Man Eli is still out there playing and has never missed a game. So shut up, because they never brought anything up about Tony. Never. They never said anything about he should retire or anything. I never heard anything like that about Tony.
Yeah, and it's amazing. Like, it's almost like they're enjoying what's happening, right? Like, everything we've been saying for the last few years is validated, but they ignore the obvious where the line is just abysmal. I mean, look, I think Eli's Giants are going to move on from him at the end of the year. But to say he's going to retire, you don't know. And then they're saying Archie Manning's hinting at it. I mean, if I was Eli, I would retire too for what the Giants have done to him and what that front office has done to him over the last 5 to 6 years. But the fact that they take enjoyment out of it is what sickens me and should sicken every Giants fan.
Yeah, they are taking enjoyment out of it, just like they take enjoyment out of being over-the-top biased for a team that's been 8-8 for the last 23 years. Last Sunday, the Dallas Cowboys had a bye week, okay, but you know what I saw on the NFL Network? Sunday morning spotlight on one of the offensive linemen. So a big Dallas Cowboys feature on one of their OL, even though they weren't even freaking playing last weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it, man.
Yep.
Good stuff.
What's wrong with these people, Frattman?
Yeah. Wrapping up segment number 2, Bonehead Football Media Matters. This is a great song here. Kenny Wayne Shepherd. Out of Texas, speaking of which. Latest from him. Check it out.
Makes me feel alive. Makes me want to spread my wings and fly. Something about the moon gets me in the mood for rolling on a river in a velvet sky. It's something that I can't explain. It's falling on me like rain. I'm out here all alone. I ain't never known nothing but the night. Ooh, I love it. Makes me wanna move with you. And all I need is only you and I and nothing but the night.
Set, hut, hike. Just snap the damn ball. Go, Frattman, go. Back to Game Face.
Boy, that's a bad call.
New York Giants radio, baby. GameFaceRadio. CBS Sports Radio. Hit it. Foo Fighters. All right, it's time to dig deep into our conversations of G-Men with Jerry Foley from the Giant Insider. And a reminder to everybody coming up at the end of this segment, the Fennelly Fracas. John Fennelly, New York Giants sports writer extraordinaire, will be hitting us up with some great fracas stuff revolving around the New York Giants. I'm looking forward to that. It's his second edition of this here on the show. We'll be doing it every Giants segment here on GameFaceRadio, so stand by for that coming up at the end. The Giants have a bye week, this week, so they will not be playing. Their next game is 1 week from tomorrow night, Monday Night Football in San Francisco, and the schedule makers are probably thrilled with that one.
Oh, my God, they must be throwing up as we speak. Holy cow.
Oh, my. And I'll tell you what, too, Jerry, you and I kind of touched upon this in the opening segment. You've got probably the three worst teams record-wise are the Raiders, the Giants, and the 49ers right now, right?
Yes.
And the Cardinals.
Yeah, they're up there, too.
Yeah, those are the four worst teams, at least according to records and performance, up to this point. But I believe that the 49ers and the Giants are further apart than their records indicate.
Oh, 1,000%.
Yeah, I think the 49ers, just like the 40, I mean, look what the 49ers did to the Raiders.
They murdered them, and the Raiders have openly given up. I don't care what anybody says.
That's right. The 49ers are playing like an 8-8 team, I think.
Yeah.
And the Raiders are playing like a 2-14 team.
Yeah, the 49ers are playing like a team that lost their starting quarterback. I mean, they're still a good team. The pieces are around him.
Yes.
The pieces would have been around him, but now it's, they dug themselves too deep a hole, but they're still a good team.
And so where are the Giants in that mix? I see two teams here, Giants and 49ers, going in different directions. I think one team is playing a lot harder than the other team. And I think ownership and coaching are the key here. And I'm not trying to get philosophical, but, I'd like to think that we have discussions and analyzations on this show that you won't hear on any other sports radio show. But that's my take as we get ready to see the... What's the 49ers record now? 3-6, I think?
They have 2 wins. I think they're 2-7.
2-7. Giants 1-7.
Yeah.
But they are a lot farther apart than their records indicate.
Yeah, I think the worst team is the Raiders, and then I think it's a toss-up between the Giants and the Cardinals. I think you'd flip a coin to see who'd win that game.
Yeah.
And then I think it's I don't even know if the 49ers are the next worst. I mean, I think the Browns are up there.
No, the 49ers look like, every time I see them play, they look like a team that is cohesive and playing very hard.
Yep. Yeah, so I don't think it's them. I think there's other teams up there that are worse. But I think right now the Raiders are clearly the worst team in the league. But, hey, Giants, you're right behind them. Giants and Cardinals, I think, are next.
And it's all wrong with the New York Giants. When you look at the way this team performed against the Washington Redskins last week, wow. I mean, so bad on so many levels.
Well, the offense was, right? Like, the defense kept them in it. I know they gave up a 64-yard run to Peterson, but that was a 13-6 game till late in the fourth quarter. Like, if you give up 13 points today in the NFL, you got to win.
Yeah, you got to be able to score points.
That offense stinks.
They haven't been able to score. They weren't able to score points under McAdoo for years. Everybody talked about, just last year. No, it wasn't just last year.
And Manning, look, I'm not blaming Manning, but when you look at Manning's stats, you say, they're not that bad. Yeah, it's all late-game garbage stats.
Yeah.
They're down 14, and he brings them down the field because everyone's playing prevent defense, or he's checking down the entire game. Like, it's just they're so bad offensively, and the offense is a clear example. The offense lost it last week. I mean, there was a point in the game where Collins made a huge play. Vernon recovers the fumble. They should be going in, and I think that was the game. That was the series where Evan Ingram dropped a fourth down pass right in his hands.
Yeah, and it was right in his hands thanks to Eli's throw.
And now I think the Giants have lost so much over the last 2 years, they don't know how to win anymore.
That's a good point.
So guys like Ingram drop the ball, no one can recover. I hate saying it, but it's like a bunch of guys just not trying to lose and trying to win. I know it's cliche, but it's totally true. That's what Lawrence Taylor said when he got there in 81.
Yeah.
He said it was a bunch of guys trying not to lose rather than to win. They don't have a leader on offense or defense. They need one desperately, and this is what happens. This is what they are now. And then you figure they have a chance to put in Kyle Lauletta over the next few weeks, but then he makes like Mario Andretti and dodges the cops in North Jersey. Like,
what the heck?
Yeah, what are you doing? And supposedly it was 2 days in a row. There was a summons being sent out the day before for doing that. Now, everyone has crossed lanes in North Jersey. If you've ever driven up in North Jersey.
Oh, it's so frustrating to drive in New York and New Jersey these days.
And
it
North
really
Jersey especially is brutal. I mean, you don't know where the exits are until you're on top of them. I hate it. I hate driving up there. But eluding cops and almost hitting one? Are you kidding me? Really?
And not following their instructions.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I mean, was that anywhere on the Wonderlic test or the psychological evaluation of this kid?
Listen, everybody, because a lot of people are doing this, not just Kyle Lauletta.
Right.
When a police officer gives you instruction about something, whether you think it's right or wrong, you can hash all that out later. You follow the officer's instructions, whether you like it or not, or you end up in handcuffs.
My daughter just got her license. I told her the proper etiquette. I'm going to get pulled over. 10 and 2, hands fanned out so they know you don't have any weapons. I am the perfect person to get pulled over because I listen to everything they say, and I've never gotten a ticket because of it. So I don't understand this. I'm going to try to outrun him, or I think he pulled the I'm the Giants quarterback, I'm late to practice. That's another thing, Steve. You're late to practice. You have the opportunity of a lifetime coming up, and you're late to practice, or you're running late.
Timing is everything, and yet, and here we are. All the discussion is perhaps this guy's going to get more reps in practice and playing a game here pretty soon, and you go and you get yourself arrested.
The best situation for the Giants would be if Kyle Lauletta was really something and could make it, and then they could take the best player available early next year. I'm not saying they wouldn't go quarterback, but what if he comes in and throws between 250 and 300 for 3 or 4 games?
Yeah, what if he looks like Mullins?
Right, then at least it's a question, right?
Yeah.
And then they could maybe take a Nick Bosa from Ohio State, or the kid from Houston, Vincent, the defensive tackle. So the Giants need so much that if Lauletta were to pan out, that'd be the best situation for him.
Hell yeah.
Now, I don't know if he'll play now or how that works. I know his court date was postponed. And
it's all up in the air now, man.
Sure will be suspended. So
yeah, and you know, look, there's been plenty of times over the years, especially in the radio business, where I find myself out on an island with an opinion on something, and I'm the only one. Maybe 1 or 2 other people with me against 500. I still believe. Now, it doesn't mean that it might be the right time, because the timing may be bad now. The situation may not be right anymore. But I still believe Eli Manning can play football. I really do, man. I see enough from him where if he had an offensive line that was even half better than it was or has been, that you'd be seeing this guy playing better football. I've seen it, and I know you probably disagree with me now. So do everybody in the sports media evidently disagrees with me.
I don't think it's that, Steve. I think if the Giants were better this year, I think they would have a shot with Manning. But I think as every year goes on, like next year he's going to be 38, and it's like, okay, they got to move on. Like I get what you're saying, and I think if the Giants' offensive line was decent, this team would be hovering around 500. But I just think with the age factor, the fact that the Giants haven't built a line, they got to move on next year. But I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and now it looks like the media, the sports media, and a lot of other people are going to get their wish because there are rumblings now that he's talking about retiring at the end of the year. So.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, he might want to play for another team. I mean, the Giants will likely move on. I mean, the Giants, I would say 99% chance of them moving on.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think it's unfortunate. I still think Eli Manning had another Super Bowl in him. I really do.
Over the last 5 years, I do. I think he showed enough, especially behind the lines. Look, 2016, he played great in that playoff game, and his receivers let him down, and I think they could have beat Green Bay.
All right, we're going to move the discussion here to OBJ for a moment, which really is kind of indicative of the Giants' offense.
Yeah.
It is GameFaceRadio, CBS Sports Radio. Thank you much for being with us. And by the way, you can follow us on Twitter at CBS GameFace. Jerry Foley is up there as well. You want to give everybody your info on that, and then also how to subscribe to the Giant Insider?
Sure. Twitter account is at Giant Insider, and then to subscribe to the paper, it's www.giantinsider.com, or you can go to magster.com, Magzter. Search Giant Insider. You can get a digital subscription through Magster.
We are here talking the NFL and talking G-Men Sunday mornings, 9 o'clock Eastern. So all year long, the moment OBJ catches a ball, whether it's 3 yards past the line of scrimmage, 5, 7, 10, whatever it is, the moment he catches a pass, there's freaking 4 defenders right there on him, man. Yeah. No yards after the catch.
Yeah.
Wow. Never saw it like this.
On him. The offense must be pretty predictable. They're all concentrating on him. They know that Eli has no time, so they can play up close to OBJ and just make sure he doesn't catch the ball, and get too much yardage afterwards. So it's it all comes down to the trenches and the fact that the Giants can't keep manning the pocket clean. That's it.
I've never seen it. Look, never in a million years would I have thought that this offense would look worse than it did under Ben McAdoo, and here we are.
Yeah, it does look worse. It looks like the offensive line is actually worse than last year, and it's all new guys.
Oh.
And then you have to look at the coaching and the beat writer Chris. We brought it up the other night. Hal Hunter was out of football for a year or so, and he's the offensive line coach. And I think at some point you have to look at the coaching.
Yeah, you think?
Because all of a sudden Nate Solder can't play.
Right.
It's very weird.
Right.
Spencer Pulley, who was started 16 games for the Chargers last year. He's struggling. Like Greco. Really? Do we just have the worst eye for talent in the NFL?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm actually excited. They made this move this week of pouncing on the Rams offensive lineman who was waived. Yeah.
But that's going to show you if he comes here and stinks, then you have to say it's coaching, right? I mean, because he's pretty good.
Yeah, he is pretty good.
Struggles. Then you have to look at the coaching and say, all right, we have to move on from Hal Hunter.
Right. So it's strangely enough, signing this guy Brown is going to really spotlight Hal Hunter and what kind of job he's doing.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
So if he comes in and stinks, then it's us, not him.
But let's go back to Eli just for a second and the offensive line in conjunction. Yeah. 7 sacks against the Redskins last Sunday. Yeah. So, and he's been sacked, 30 times already this year?
31 times, I believe.
31, and he was sacked 39 total in 16 games last year.
Yeah.
How is any quarterback, I don't care who it is, how is any quarterback going to perform with that? I mean, those are 7 sacks, and then how many other hurries and people in your face and no running game? How's any quarterback going to perform?
You can't. You can't. I don't care how mobile you are, unless you're Russell Wilson, whose line stinks, but he's extremely mobile.
Yes.
I don't know who could perform that way. I know, interesting stat, Sims was sacked 55 times in 1984. They were 9-7, but the defense was really good. And Sims actually had 4,000 yards that year. But, I mean, Manning's going to have about 4,600 yards passing, but a lot of it's garbage time because the offense can't move during the game or they can't score. But, yeah, man, I don't know who could succeed under those conditions, and that's why I always said, yeah, Manning has his flaws, but the offensive line is absolutely terrible.
No doubt. All right, here's our final subject before the Fennelly fracas kicks in.
Yep.
Ralph Acciano did a piece this week, and I'm hearing this a lot over the last 72 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And it puzzles me, so maybe you can help me here. Maybe it's time, according to Ralph Acciano and others, maybe it's time for Shermer to think about giving up play calling. All right, wait a second here now. This guy was brought in as the head coach because of his play calling, because of the fact that he's an offensive genius.
Yeah.
And here we are again in the same position we were in with the last offensive genius who was a head coach, the non-adult. And here we are again. I hearken back to Jim Fossil, the head coach who was an offensive genius, and maybe he should think about giving up play calling. Maybe Ben McAdoo should think about giving up play calling. Now Shermer should think about giving up play calling. Do you see a trend here? This is why I wanted the Giants to hire a defensive-minded head coach so the offensive coordinator, the play caller, could just focus in on progressive, outside-the-box play calling.
And the reason why that comes up is because Shermer goes to half times now with 2 timeouts. He's a horrible game manager. I just think there's only a few head coaches who can call their own plays and not be distracted by what's going on the rest of the game. So when Shermer keeps making the same mistakes he makes over and over and over with regard to letting the clock runs out, the play clock runs out, they go to halftime with only with actually timeouts to spare, then you have to say he's doing too much. Stop calling the plays. Give it to the offensive coordinator. You're almost like a CEO when you're a head coach. You have to just manage everything, and you leave the defense to the defense, leave the offense to the offense, then you manage the game and how it's flowing. So I understand why Vacchiano wrote that, and you're right. This is why, I mean, They're 1-7, and I liked Spagnuolo at the end of last year, and I thought, it's a shame he's not getting a shot. Would this team be any worse with Spagnuolo as head coach?
No, certainly not.
Right. So I agreed with you. You want a defensive guy, but now if the Giants are going to move on from Manning, you absolutely want an offensive guy for a new quarterback. But you're right. Yes, I probably should give up the play calling because it's too much for him.
Okay,
Can't handle it.
Then why was he even brought in as a head coach if he's going to give up play calling, which he was supposedly
Manning's career? He was going to revive. That's why they were trying to do it.
Yeah, I guess. All right. Jerry Foley.
Right. I'm just saying that's probably what they were doing. But.
Yes. Yep, I agree. Jerry Foley from the Giant Insider with yours truly, the Frattman. John Fennelly covers the G-Men in a lot of different areas, and he also does the Fennelly fracas here on GameFaceRadio.
This is John Fenley, and this is the Fenley Fracas. The New York Giants are 1-7 to start this season. It has an all-too-familiar feel. Literally nothing has gone right for this team. 5 of their 7 losses have been by 7 points or less. They could conceivably be 4-4 or better had they gotten a few breaks. One of those breaks was another whiff by tight end Evan Ingram, who on a 4th and 3 last week against Washington let a drive-extending first down pass right through his hands, whistled right through. This is nothing new for Ingram. He had 11 drops last year, and it looks like he's on his way to doing something like that this year. Even though he's looked better, he still has to get better. Let's be frank, though. The Giants' coaching staff, especially on the offensive side of the ball, is doing a lousy job. They saw Eli Manning getting drawn and quartered last week and still put him back to pass 54 times. Run the football, even if it's not working. You got to give your offensive line a chance to get some traction. Why are you passing the ball 70% of the time in close games? Didn't they just draft Saquon Barkley 2nd overall? Use him.
Cheers. Hey, it's Tiki Barber. You're hanging with the Frattman. It's Game Face on your home for CBS Sports. Sports Radio 940, WINE, and online at 940sportsradio.com.
Cunnilingus and psychiatry brought us to this.
Mandatory Metallica, baby. Sunday morning football music right here on GameFaceRadio. CBS Sports Radio. Oh, yeah, baby. I know Foley likes it, man. I know he does.
1,000%, pal.
I'm going to crank this for a minute here.
Oh, poor twisted me. Oh, poor twisted me. A beast on sympathy. I chew on suffer. I chew on agony. Swallow whole the pain.
Boy, kind of an applicable song for the Giants at 1-7, huh?
Oh, 100%.
Poor Twisted Me.
Oh, my God. Poor Twisted Giant fans.
Dedicating that song to Kyle Lauletta this morning.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Bonehead.
Oh, yeah, he definitely classifies as a bonehead at this point, even though he's not in the football media.
Yep. With the opportunity of a lifetime.
Oh, yeah. How'd you like the Fennelly Fracas?
I love it. And, again, he's someone who actually contributes to the Insider. He writes for USA Today. Seasoned, a veteran of the press.
No doubt.
And he's hit the nail on the head.
No doubt.
100%.
Oh, we're happy he's part of this show.
Yep.
All right, it's time for in-your-face matchups here on GameFaceRadio, and the NFL should be ashamed of themselves for putting Buffalo, New England on Monday Night Football. How dare you? I mean, we all knew what the result was going to be. Their ratings have to be down, down, down when they're putting matchups like that on primetime instead of games like Green Bay versus New England. I mean, it's a primetime game, yes. For tonight, that's an 8:20 kickoff. You're going to see Rodgers against Brady. But those are the kinds of matchups we want to see all the time on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, like you said, interconference, not divisional. No one can. You're isolating. You're isolating a small audience for that matchup.
Yes, you really are.
Especially when one of the teams stinks.
How do they not get it?
I don't know.
It's unbelievable.
It's
Wake
one
up.
of the many things the NFL does wrong now.
Here's another great interconference matchup. A 4:05 kickoff. The Chargers at the Seattle Seahawks. That, to me, is a fascinating matchup that I want to watch.
100% right. Yep.
Not Buffalo in New England. Idiots. And here's our third in-your-face matchup for today. Looking forward to this one, Jerry Foley. I'm picking the Saints over the Rams. I think the Rams are going to get their first loss today in New Orleans. 4:25 kickoff.
Yeah, I'm going with the Rams. I'm a believer. They might lose. I don't think it's going to be today. And I know they're home, New Orleans, and I know that Breeze plays better in the Dome, but I think the Rams in a Dome, it's going to be like a track meet for them.
You know, it really is astonishing that the NFL still doesn't understand all of the metrics involved with these matchups when you put Buffalo against the New England Patriots on a Monday night game.
I mean, I could see if the Jets were good. Jets, Patriots, it's like New York versus Boston. Okay. But, I mean, Buffalo, New England, oh, my God. It's a division game.
It's unbelievable.
And you knew they were going to stink this year.
Unbelievable. Why don't they just put the Cleveland Browns against the Raiders or something?
The Bengals,
Yeah. All right. Jerry Foley from the Giant Insider Hour, co-host. Another great show. Thanks to you, buddy.
Thank you, Ben.
We'll talk during the week, and, of course, we'll be here next Sunday on GameFaceRadio. CBS Sports Radio. I am the Frattman. Thank you for being here. Talk to you next Sunday.
We are your home for CBS Sports Radio. CBS Sports Radio, 940 WINE, Brookfield, Danbury, a Town Square media station. This is Sports Radio 940 WINE.